Stephen A. Smith not only wants Shannon Sharpe to be hired by ESPN, but he also wants him to be one of, if not his only co-host on First Take. On his podcast, Stephen A. reiterated that he wants Shannon on First Take, and he's going to get him. He said, we, speaking for ESPN, are definitely talking to Shannon Sharpe. Those conversations are official. The reports have not been misnomers or misreports or anything like that. We are talking to him, and I'm hopeful, very confident that ultimately we will be announcing sooner rather than later that he will be on First Take. As for both Stephen A. and Shannon's former co-host, Skip Bayless, his search for a new co-host for his show on FS1, Undisputed, continues. The new hot name in the news this week is that Richard Sherman's getting some looks from Fox to potentially replace Shannon Sharpe, as Skip Bayless has had to go on a hiatus with this show Undisputed because they have had trouble replacing Shannon. So one of the things that I read from Front Office Sports was that FS1 still doesn't understand why Shannon Sharpe decided to leave at the time that he did leave, especially apparently not having that next move lined up. It appears that Shannon Sharpe is enjoying being a free agent and obviously being courted by the likes of ESPN. I mean, if I'm listening to Stephen A. here, we've obviously heard FanDuel has had some interest in Shannon Sharpe. They're obviously looking for a Pat McAfee replacement. Not 100% sure how that one would work because the basis of what FanDuel and Pat McAfee were doing was sports betting, right? And that hasn't been like Shannon's MO. I think what he used to bet like Mountain Dew with Skip. But I'm talking about real hard lines is what FanDuel will need from their next new guy. And it would probably need Shannon to have a team. I don't know. That doesn't seem to be a match made in heaven from my vantage point. Now let's get to the big fish. Do I believe that Shannon Sharpe will be a great addition to ESPN's First Take? It's a two-parted answer. As a former ESPN employee, I will say this. I think Shannon will be great wherever you put him on ESPN programming, if we're being honest. The problem is him and Stephen A. make no sense together. That's the thing. If you're ESPN and you bring in a Shannon Sharpe today, I want you to understand, I think the world of Stephen A. Smith, the NBA reporter, I think he's one of the legends. You talk to a lot of athletes like Tracy McGrady, Allen Iverson. They would have never opened up to the media if not for the likes of Stephen A. Smith. He deserves his just due for that. And he deserves credit for what him and Skip Bayless accomplished with First Take and how they've changed sports debate television. They've changed it. Brought a lot of money to a lot of people. Now, post Skip Bayless, Stephen A's been struggling to find his brand. And I got love for Stephen A. Used to work with the brother. Brother gave me some game a couple times that I was around him at the network. I got nothing but respect for him as an OG. But he would want me to tell the truth. His brand has been all over the place since Skip Bayless has left. Obviously, the Max Kellerman thing didn't work out. Stephen A. admitted that. And I don't necessarily, this is me talking here, I don't really care for the multiple co-host ordeal. I don't think it works well. And I like guys like Kendrick Perkins and Dan Orlowski and these guys that they bring in, Michael Irvin with the Cowboy stuff. I think it's fun, but it's not consistent enough for what ESPN likes at that morning time slot. They won't debate. And I don't think switching in co-hosts in and out, depending on what season you're in, I don't think it's conducive. I think that one guy on the other end of that is what you want. The problem is it's really tough to replace Skip Bayless. Love him or hate him, he's a big brand that brings a huge audience behind him. And it's been difficult for ESPN to find somebody that makes sense for Stephen A., that takes him to places he wants to be. His brand catered to Skip, if we're being honest, and it's been difficult. And I'm looking at Stephen A. right now, and I'm listening to some of that comment that we referenced from his podcast, and I'm thinking to myself, man, if I'm an executive or a higher up or a boss of Stephen A.'s, I'm like, man, is he speaking for the company now? Yo, we pay him a high salary as a personality. Now he's one of the spokesmen of the company. I would definitely be offended by that. I'm telling you, man, the podcast era is the same thing to sports television and like pretty much any television network, it's had the same impact that the streaming services like Netflix and Hulu have had to TV as well. It's like they're both hitting TV at the same time, right? Because Stephen A's sole responsibility is to be there for ESPN in any capacity that they need him to be there, obviously under his contract, right? That's Stephen A's own podcast. Okay, I'm paying you, what they say, what, $12 million a year? I'm giving you reportedly access to a plane. Like, I'm paying you to be there for me. And now you going on your own podcast and releasing background information that's not known to the public about negotiations with a guy that could potentially be your replacement down the line. I don't know if that's going over well with ESPN execs. Again, I'm telling y'all what it is outside looking in. I am not talking to anybody from ESPN about this. I still have relationships and friends from ESPN, but I'm not talking to them about this. This is like of the 1% would know this type of stuff. I'm telling y'all, man, I'm telling you, I can see it. Stephen A is struggling to figure that brand out. He's now doing a podcast. Like what that almost feels like trying to chase like what Shannon Sharpe has been able to do with Club Shay Shay, which gets me to the Shannon Sharpe and Stephen A Smith fit in more detail. Man, I don't know if you put Shannon and Stephen A on the TV together. I don't know if you come away from that program saying Stephen A was the stronger of the two. It's of my belief that Shannon and his brand and his personality will triumph Stephen A's. Like, they're both Dallas Cowboy haters. That's their thing. That's their stick. They don't like the Cowboys. Okay, what kind of programming are you going to make with them both not liking the Cowboys? What happens when the Dallas Cowboys win a game? I'm actually a Cowboy fan. They're going to win at least 8, 9, or 10 games in the regular season and then lose in the playoffs. That's what they do. Like, you need the other side there. You're just going to have two guys killing the Cowboys. You're going to turn off all the Dallas Cowboy fans. They're not going to watch it. Why would they watch a program when their side is not being argued? You going to argue with what, Dan Orlowski? With Michael Irvin? Actually, Shannon, Stephen A, and Michael Irvin would be entertaining. But if you already got that, why are you going to then give Shannon a big bag when you pay Stephen A to do that? Now, I can see Shannon coming in and then a couple years down the line, Stephen A, no longer being there. I can see that. But not them two together right now. That doesn't make sense to me. Now, let's get to the last thing. The most interesting piece to this puzzle. What I mentioned to you earlier in this video. The rumor that Skip Bayless and FS1 are looking at Richard Sherman as Shannon's replacement. Now, that is intriguing to me. Now, Skip's 71 years of age right now. And what have I told y'all about Skip? I had the pleasure of working with him, obviously, as well in Bristol at the time. And, he's a very smart man. You can't give him credit for nothing else. He struck gold once with Stephen A. Smith. He struck gold twice with Shannon Sharpe. If he brings in Richard Sherman, I'll be damned. I'm starting to put this together in the back of my mind. Bro, this man might have struck gold for a third time. That makes sense, y'all. He's doing it again. Think about that. Richard Sherman would be a perfect replacement for Shannon Sharpe, as good as it could get, because it's going to be tough to replace Shannon. And again, I would have never thought about this one. But again, you got to give Skip credit. Richard Sherman, very intelligent brother, very articulate brother, very, very articulate dude. Richard Sherman, Skip, they had a little thing at ESPN on First Take many, many years ago. So you got that there. Richard Sherman is definitely going to be pro player, but he's also honest enough about the sport. I've tuned into him a couple times on Colin Cowherd's The Volume Network. Super articulate brother, and definitely can break the game down to you the way Shannon would do oftentimes on Undisputed. He's going to go at Skip. He represents a couple of teams, right, that you could do some big business with. The 49ers, obviously, undisputed is shot on the West Coast. The 49ers have been one of the most relevant teams over the last 3-4 years in the Shanahan era. They've been right there in the thick of things. Obviously, the 49ers have eliminated the Dallas Cowboys the last 2 postseasons, right? There is a lot there with that. I'm saying there's something there. That feels right. And again, I don't know if it's going to get, materialized and if he's going to get the offer. But I'm just saying, y'all, when Undisputed returns in a couple weeks, that one makes sense. This dude, Skip, man, y'all got to watch this dude. That is what Stephen A's looking for. The co-host that makes sense to the brand. And I'm telling y'all, from somebody who's worked in the space, I don't know everything. I was not obviously a hirer. I was an intern when I was there. But I know this space. One of the reasons why I was able to get a lot of a lot of love from my supervisors while I was there, in my short time, was that they could tell I had the mind. I had to put everything together. They knew I had the mind. And I'm just telling y'all where my mind's at. When I hear the name Richard Sherman, take it from your boy. Him and Skip Bayless on TV, again, it ain't Shannon, but that's going to work. That is going to work. That man about to strike gold again. Stephen A. and Shannon Sharpe, I would have to see it manifest. Got ultimate respect for them two brothers. I got to see that one. That doesn't make sense to me. You would have to literally change the whole construct of the First Take show. To me, you'd be better off letting fans call in and letting them be the co-hosts if you're going to have 2 Dallas Cowboy haters on the screen at the same time. That's just my opinion. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Some updates in the debate television world. I'm out.